All right. Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Coach Kevin here, and we are going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to go ahead and share my screen with you and point out some things. First of all, if this is your first time with us, or maybe you're watching this as a recording in the future, I want to point out that we have a Facebook group that coincides with our meetup. It has the same name, I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. We invite you to come join us. The way to find us is go to your own Facebook account, go to the search Facebook function, type in I want to be really rich and I do not apologize for it, and you can find us there. The other way you can find us is to go directly to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich as one word. And the reason you might want to join us, if we have any special announcements for the group, we tend to do our best to have that like pinned to the top. And then as you follow along, you can see that what we do is when I remember to hit the record button, I go ahead and record these meetings and I post them in the group. So let's say, for instance, you're here today and you really like what was said and you want to go back and review it. Typically later the same day or the next day, we will have that video up. Now I'm a little bit behind over the last couple of days because some other things I needed to get done. And though this weekend, I am not going to be coaching anybody that I'm aware of. So that'll give me some additional time to do that. So hopefully I'll get everything caught up by the time you guys are back on Monday with us. All right. So what are we doing today? We are actually in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Now, first of all, see, we're on page 59 and we blew it up to 300. Okay, let's remember 59. Let me show you how we found it. I actually happen to have a Kindle copy. I also have an Audible copy for the audio book. However, when we go through material, and if it's something that is a book, it's not always a book. It could be other things that we're using, but when it is a book, if the book is available somewhere for free, I try and find it for you, and then we use the free copy. That way everybody here can have a copy of it. So you can get the same free copy and follow along. So I just typed in Psycho-Cybernetics PDF, and one of the first things that popped up was this, and this is the one when I looked at it versus some others I looked at, I liked, so it's the one that we're using right now. But it'll pop up looking like this, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz-WordPress.com. And then whatever this Ding Wallace.files, WordPress, whatever. When I clicked on it, it brought me directly to here. And you'll see this in a moment, I hope. There you go. I didn't have to put in name or email or anything like that. All I did was hit the download function, and now I have my own copy of this version. Which I have saved. What you can do, let's see, we're going to go to page 59 because that's where we left off. And we are also going to blow it up bigger, up to 300. There we go. That way it's a little bit bigger on the screen for everybody. So we've been going together as a group now. We started this in November 5th of last year. And we've been going strong since then through different materials and things, taking it apart and learning and growing. And you guys are becoming even better and better. Actually, so am I. We all do. Every time we go through information that can become subconscious for us in a positive way, that is always a very good thing to do. Okay. But the reason we decided to go through Psycho-Cybernetics, I read it several years ago. It's been a while since I'd read it. But I felt through intuition, inspiration, revelation that this was the next step for us. And this book is really good at helping us understand, particularly on kind of a scientific level. A lot of books that we've been going through speak on a spiritual level, and I'm not saying there's no spiritual in this, but on a scientific level, how we function, how our brain works. And why would that be important? Well, we can understand the law of attraction. We can understand the laws of the universe that are in their relationship to manifesting what we want. But if we don't understand how we work, we get in the way sometimes, and mostly we get in the way through programming that is already inside of us that was put there. When I say put there, it was allowed in. It was allowed in when we were very young because we didn't have actually the ability to keep it from coming in. But since we became older and we were able to make our own choices, we've allowed stuff to come in because we didn't know we could keep it out. And we didn't know we could actually choose what goes in and what does not go in. What has gone into us at a subconscious level has turned into our habits and has turned our life on autopilot. And let's say, for instance, you feel that you've been successful trying to manifest some money and wealth in your life, but you've been stuck at a certain level for a while. And you're like, why can't I get past that to the next thing that I want to do? Well, it's because you have programming that needs to change. What is phenomenal about this book is Maxwell Maltz actually shares very good ideas and steps to do that. So he was a plastic surgeon. I say was because he has passed. So he's not with us any longer. So the book is a little bit older. Okay. However, that doesn't make it any less important or powerful. Matter of fact, true principles, when they are true and when they, they remain the same. The laws of the universe don't change as the world changes. Society changes, but the laws didn't change. Society just makes up its own rules. But even making up our own rules, we can't defy the laws that exist. Like, for instance, the law of gravity. It looks like we defy it because we can fly airplanes, but we don't defy it. We learned how gravity works, and we've used the additional laws like aerodynamics to be able to fly, okay? But if we weren't understanding how it works, we couldn't overcome it and we wouldn't be able to fly. And by the way, so far, other than in my dreams as a kid, I used to pretend that I'd fly. Maybe you guys could too. But somehow in my dreams, I could start flapping my arms. And not every dream I had, okay? But I had dreams where I'd start flapping my arms and yeah, I would come up off the ground, and sometimes I would get kind of high up there, and it actually was kind of fun and scary at the same time. So that was my imagination. However, interestingly enough, my imagination also had some reality to it. It's just that I don't fly by flapping my wings. At this point in my life, need to get on some form of aircraft if I'm going to fly, typically. So, okay, enough of that. Let's go ahead and hop in where we left off. Imagination, the first key. The reason why it accomplishes so much is that selling is simply a matter of situations. Okay, yeah, we were talking a little bit ago is using selling as an example, and we stopped in the middle of a thought, I suppose. We were talking about using the imagination and role playing to become better at sales. There you go. Not that you guys want to necessarily go do sales. This was just an example that Maxwell Maltz was sharing on how to reprogram yourself to succeed at what you're doing. Imagination, the first key. The reason why it accomplishes so much is that selling is simply a matter of situations. One is created every time you talk to a customer. He says something or asks a question or raises an objection. If you always know how to counter what he says or answer his question or handle the objection, you make sales. Oh, I know, we stopped actually right here. That's why it sounds so familiar. Anyhow, we'll get to here. A role-playing salesman at night when he is alone will create these situations. He will imagine the prospect throwing the widest kind of curves at him. Then he will work out the best answer to them. No matter what the situation is, you can prepare for it beforehand by means of imagining yourself and your prospect face to face while he is raising objections and creating problems, and you're handling them properly. So this is actually where we left off, but maybe somebody needed to hear or rehear what we just said. Use mental pictures to get a better job, if that's what you want. The late William Moulton Marston, well-known psychologist, recommended what he called rehearsal practice to men and women who came to him for help in job advancement. If you have an important interview coming up, such as making an application for a job, his advice was plan for the interview in advance. Go over in your mind all the various questions that you're likely to be asked. Think about the answers you're going to give. Then rehearse the interview in your mind. Even if none of the questions you've rehearsed come up, the rehearsal practice will still work wonders. It gives you confidence. And even though real life has not set lines to be recited like a stage play, rehearsal practice will help you to ad lib and react spontaneously to whatever situation you find yourself in, because you have practiced reacting spontaneously. Don't be a ham actor, Dr. Martin would say, explaining that we are always acting out some role in life. Why not select the right role, the role of a successful person, and rehearse it? Ooh, good stuff. Good stuff. Why not select the right role, the role of a successful person, and rehearse it? Writing in your Life magazine, Dr. Marston said, frequently the next step in your career cannot be taken without first gaining some experience in the work you will be called upon to perform. Bluff may open the door to a job you know nothing about, but in 9 cases out of 10, it won't keep you from being fired when your inexperience becomes evident. There's only one way I know to project your practical knowledge beyond your present occupation, and that is rehearsal planning. A concert pianist practices in his head. Artur Schnabel, the world famous concert pianist, took lessons for only 7 years. He hated practice and seldom does practice for any length of time at the actual piano keyboard. When questioned about his small amount of practice as compared with other concert pianists, he said, I practice in my head. C.G. Kopp, and he means it though, okay? Don't give that as an excuse to somebody. Unless you're really, really stinking good at it, you better know what you're doing. C.G. Kopp of Holland, a recognized authority on teaching piano, recommends that all pianists practice in their heads. A new composition, he says, should be first gone over in the mind. It should be memorized and played in the mind before ever touching fingers to the keyboard. Imagination practice can lower your golf score. Time magazine reported that when Ben Hogan is playing in a tournament, he mentally rehearses each shot just before making it. He makes the shot perfectly in his imagination, feels the club head strike the ball just as it should, feels himself performing the perfect follow through, and then steps up to the ball, and depends upon what he calls muscle memory to carry out the shot just as he imagined it. Alex Morrison, perhaps the most well-known golf teacher in the world, has actually worked out a system of mental practice. It enables you to prove your golf score by sitting in an easy chair and practicing mentally what he calls the 7 Morrison keys. The mental side of golf represents 90% of the game. He says the physical side, 8%, and the mechanical side, 2%. In his book, Better Golf Without Practice, Morrison tells how he taught Lou Lair to break 90 for the first time with no actual practice whatsoever. Morrison had Lair sit in an easy chair in his living room and relaxed while he demonstrated for him the correct swing and gave a brief lecture on the Morrison keys. Lair was instructed to engage in no actual practice on the links, but instead spend 5 minutes each day relaxing in his easy chair, visualizing himself attending to the keys correctly. Morrison goes on to tell how several days later, with no physical preparation whatever, Lair joined his regular foursome and amazed them by shooting 9 holes in an even par 36. The core of the Morrison system is you must have a clear mental picture of the correct thing before you can do it successfully. Morrison, by this method, enabled Paul Whiteman and many other celebrities to chop as much as 10 to 12 strokes off their scores. Johnny Bula, the well-known professional golfer, wrote an article several years ago in which he said that having a clear mental image of just where you wanted the ball to go and what you wanted it to do was more important than form in golf. Most of the pros, said Bula, have one or more serious flaws in their form, yet they managed to shoot good golf. It was Bula's theory that if you would picture the end result, see the ball going where you wanted it to go, and have the confidence to know that it was going to do what you wanted, your subconscious would take over and direct your muscles correctly. If your grip was wrong and your stance not in the best form, your subconscious would still take care of that by directing your muscles to do whatever was necessary to compensate for the error in form. Good stuff there. Think about that. If you don't feel that you're particularly good at something, you can still get the outcome that you want because your subconscious can compensate. Successful men and women have, since the beginning of time, used mental pictures and rehearsal practice to achieve success. Napoleon, for example, practiced soldiering in his imagination for many years before he ever went on an actual battlefield. Webb and Morgan, in their book, Making the Most of Your Life, tell us that the notes Napoleon made from his readings during these years of study filled, when printed, 400 pages. He imagined himself as a commander and drew maps of the island of Corsica, showing where he would place various defenses, making all of his calculations with mathematical precision. Conrad Hilton imagined himself operating a hotel long before he ever bought one. When a boy, he used to play that he was a hotel operator. Henry J. Kaiser has said that each of his business accomplishments was realized in his imagination before it appeared in actuality. It is no wonder that the art of mental picturing has in the past sometimes been associated with magic. However, the new science of cybernetics gives us an insight into why mental picturing produces such amazing results and shows that these results are not due to magic, but the natural normal functioning of our minds and brains. Cybernetics regards the human brain, nervous system, and muscular system as a highly complex servo mechanism, an automatic goal-seeking machine which steers its way to a target or goal by use of feedback and data and stored information, automatically correcting course when necessary. As stated earlier, this new concept does not mean that you are a machine, but that your physical brain and body functions as a machine which you operate. The automatic creative mechanism within you can operate in only one way. It must have a target to shoot at. As Alex Morrison says, you must first clearly see a thing in your mind before you can do it. That's why you got to decide what you want. When you do see a thing clearly in your mind, your creative success mechanism within you takes over and does the job much better than you could do it by conscious effort or willpower. Instead of trying hard by conscious effort to do the thing by iron-jawed willpower, and all the while worrying and picturing to yourself all the things that are likely to go wrong, you simply relax the strain. Stop trying to do it by strain and effort, picturing to yourself the target you really want to hit, and let your creative success mechanism take over. Thus, mental picturing the desired end result literally forces you to use positive thinking. You're not relieved thereafter from effort and work, but your efforts are used to carry you forward towards your goal rather than in futile mental conflict, which results when you want and try to do one thing, but picture to yourself something else. Finding your best self. The same creative mechanism within you can help you achieve your best possible self if you will form a picture in your imagination of the self you want to be and see yourself in the new role. This is a necessary condition to personality transformation. Regardless of the method of therapy used, somehow, before a person can change, he must see himself in a new role. Edward McGoldrick uses this technique in helping alcoholics cross the bridge from the old self to the new self. Each day, he has his students close their eyes, relax the body as much as possible, and create a mental motion picture of themselves as they would like to be. In this mental motion picture, they see themselves as sober, responsible persons. They see themselves actually enjoying life without liquor. This is not the only technique used by Goldrick, but it is one of the basic methods used at Bridge House, which has a higher record of cure for alcoholics than any other organization in the country. I myself have witnessed veritable miracles in personality transformation when an individual changes his self-image. However, today we're only beginning to glimpse the potential creative power which stems from the human imagination, and particularly our own images concerning ourselves. Consider the implications. For example, in the following news release, which appeared a couple years ago under an Associated Press dateline, just imagine you're sane. San Francisco, some mental patients can improve their lot and perhaps shorten their stay in hospitals just by imagining they are normal. Two psychologists with the Veterans Administration at Los Angeles reported, Dr. Harry M. Grayson and Dr. Leonard B. Olinger told the American Psychological Association they tried the idea on 45 men hospitalized as neuropsychiatrics. The patients first were given the usual personality test. Then they were asked flatly to take the test a second time and answer the questions as they would if they were a typical, well-adjusted person on the outside. 3/4 of them turned in improved test performances, and some of the changes for the better were dramatic, psychologists reported. In order for these patients to answer the questions as a typical, well-adjusted person would answer, they had to imagine how a typical, well-adjusted person would act. They had to imagine themselves in the role of a well-adjusted person. And this in itself was enough to cause them to begin acting like and feeling like a well-adjusted person. We can begin to see why the late Dr. Albert Edward Wiggum called your mental picture of yourself the strongest force within you. Know the truth about yourself. The aim of self-image psychology is not to create a fictitious self, which is all-powerful, arrogant, egotistic, all-important. Such an image is as inappropriate and unrealistic as the inferior image of self. Our aim is to find the real self and to bring our mental images of ourselves more in line with the objects they represent. However, it is common knowledge among psychologists that most of us underrate ourselves, shortchange ourselves, and sell ourselves short. Actually, there's no such thing as a superiority complex. People who seem to have one are actually suffering from feelings of inferiority. Their superior self is a fiction, a cover-up, to hide from themselves and others their deep down feelings of inferiority and insecurity. How can you know the truth about yourself? How can you make a true evaluation? It seems to me that here psychology must turn to religion. The scriptures tell us that God created man, a little lower than the angels, and gave him dominion, that God created man in his own image. If we really believe in an all-wise, all-powerful, all-loving creator, then we are in a position to draw some logical conclusions about that which he has created, man. In the first place, such an all-wise and all-powerful creator would not turn out inferior products any more than a master painter would paint inferior canvases. Such a creator would not deliberately engineer his product to fail any more than a manufacturer would deliberately build failure into an automobile. The fundamentalists tell us that man's chief purpose and reason for living is to glorify God. And the humanists tell us that man's primary purpose is to express himself fully. However, if we take the premise that God is a loving creator and has the same interest in his creation that an earthly father has in his children, then it seems to me that the fundamentalists and humanists are saying the same thing. What brings more glory, pride, and satisfaction to a father than seeing his offspring do well, succeed, and express to the full their abilities and talents? Have you ever sat by the father of a football star during a game? Jesus expressed the same thought when he told us not to hide our light under a bushel, but to let our light shine so that your Father may be glorified. I cannot believe that it brings any glory to God when his children go around with hangdog expressions, being miserable, afraid to lift up their heads and be somebody. As Dr. Leslie D. Weatherhead has said, if we have in our minds a picture of ourselves as fear-haunted and defeated nobodies, we must get rid of that picture at once and hold up our heads. That is a false picture, and the false must go. God sees us as men and women in whom and through whom he can do a great work. He sees us as already serene, confident, and cheerful. He sees us not as pathetic victims of life, but masters of the art of living, not wanting sympathy, but imparting help to others, and therefore thinking less and less of ourselves and full not of self-concern, but of love and laughter and desire to serve. Let us look at the real selves which are in the making the moment we believe in their existence. We must recognize the possibility of change and believe in the self we are now in the process of becoming. That old sense of unworthiness and failure must go. It is false, and we are not to believe what is false. Okie dokie. So, practice exercise for you guys to do at home. Okay? Practice exercise. Hold a picture of yourself long and steady enough in your mind's eye, and you will be drawn toward it, said Dr. Harry Emerson Fosdick. Picture yourself vividly as defeated, and that alone will make victory impossible. Picture yourself vividly as winning, and that alone will contribute immeasurably to success. Great living starts with a picture held in your imagination of what you would like to do or be. Your present self-image was built upon your own imagination, pictures of yourself in the past which grew out of interpretations and evaluations which you placed upon experience. Now you are to use the same method to build an adequate self-image that you previously used to build an inadequate one. Set aside a period of 30 minutes each day where you can be alone and undisturbed. Relax and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Now close your eyes and exercise your imagination. Many people find they get better results if they imagine themselves sitting before a large motion picture screen and imagine they are seeing a motion picture of themselves. The important thing is to make these pictures as vivid and detailed as possible. And I would pause right there, hang on a second. And I would say, actually picture yourself as a participant in the movie will even be that much more powerful, quite a bit more powerful in reprogramming yourself. So instead of watching the screen, unless you have a lot of trouble seeing yourself in the movie, be in the movie and do what you would do as if you were living the way you wanted to live. Live successfully in your movie. Be successful in your movie. Receive what you want in your movie. Feel joy, happiness, peace, and success in your movie. You want your mental pictures to approximate actual experience as much as possible. The way to do this is to pay attention to small details, sights, sounds, objects in your imagined environment. One of my patients was using this exercise to overcome her fear of the dentist. She was unsuccessful until she began to notice small details in her imagined picture. The smell of the antiseptic in the office, the feel of the leather on the chair arms, the sight of the dentist's well-manicured nails as his hands approached her mouth, etc. Details of the imagined environment are all important in this exercise because, for all practical purposes, You are creating a practice experience. And if the imagination is vivid enough and detailed enough, your imagination practice is equivalent to an actual experience insofar as your nervous system is concerned. The next important thing to remember is that during this 30 minutes, you see yourself acting and reacting appropriately, successfully, ideally. It doesn't matter how you acted yesterday. You do not need to try to have faith you will act in the ideal way tomorrow. Your nervous system will take care of that in time. If you continue to practice, see yourself acting, feeling, being as you want to be. Do not say to yourself, I'm going to act this way tomorrow. Just say to yourself, I'm going to imagine myself acting this way for now, for 30 minutes today. Imagine how you would feel if you're already the sort of personality you want to be. If you've been shy and timid, see yourself moving among people with ease and poise and feeling good because of it. If you've been fearful and anxious in certain situations, see yourself acting calmly and deliberately, acting with confidence and courage, and feeling expansive and confident because you are. This exercise builds new memories or stored data into your midbrain and central nervous system. It builds a new self and a new image of self. After practicing it for a time, you'll be surprised to find yourself acting differently, more or less automatically and spontaneously without trying. This is as it should be. You do not need to take thought or try or make an effort now in order to feel ineffective and act inadequately. Your present inadequate feeling and doing is automatic and spontaneous because of the memories, real and imagined, you have built in your automatic mechanism. You will find it will work just as automatically upon positive thoughts and experiences as upon negative ones. And here's a place for you to put things to remember. And then list here some experience out of your past that is explained by the principles given in this chapter. All right. And we will move on Monday, and we will be on chapter 4. Awesome. Hey, hey, hey. Good to see you guys and gals here. Everybody has been here before, I believe, at least once. So I'm just going to invite you now to go ahead and share whatever you like to share and or ask whatever questions you would like to ask.
I like the end of our reading today because it reminds me of when I would manifest, well, when I manifested my phone, I would like visualize myself like holding the phone and also like holding it physically in my hand while my eyes are closed and not having my fingers touch, but having that space in between.
Yeah.
And then we would do the same thing in my improv class. We would we would be there in the scene and our eyes wouldn't be closed, but when we would grab an object, it was called object work, we would actually grab it like as if like with the weight, and we would feel the weight and like have our hand around it and not like have our hand touching. It was like an actual object there.
Yeah. So, yeah. 100% what you were taught to do. You know, what is the name of the book? And I need to go read it myself. Bob Proctor talks about a book. You know what? Let's see. And essentially, it's a book that an actress wrote, or actually somebody wrote the actress's techniques on acting. It's Stella Adler. But essentially, one of the things that Bob used to help him with his imagination was to actually learn about what actors and actresses do to become very good actors and actresses, because they're pretty good at seeing themselves living a different life while they're actually in the process of being a different person, right? And the reason it doesn't fully materialize in their life is because they don't believe it's going to fully materialize because they know they're playing a part. But I got to, I forget the Man on the Moon or whatever, Jim Carrey was playing the part of, I forget the guy's name, Andy Hoffman or something like that, who was essentially Latka from like Taxi. But when he got so into playing that part during the time that he was playing that part, that it almost was like he took Andy's own spirit upon him. And you couldn't tell that you literally, I mean, it was hard to tell the difference. And he had a tough time. He wasn't able to really turn it off until he was done filming the movie. So that's how deep he got into that. But yeah, we're designed as, we were given imagination for a purpose. You know, we were given this ability to do something that other creatures on the planet don't have. They don't have the ability to use imagination. We unfortunately tend to use our own imaginations to hurt ourselves and tell us negative stories instead of to help ourselves and tell us positive stories. So yeah, what you're doing in improv and whatnot, utilize, since you have that experience and you just remembered that, utilize that in creating what you want. But just do it with the intention that what you want is going to be actual for you, instead of that you're just acting, you know, for a stage, or you're acting for a movie or something. You know, have the intention that what it is that you are imagining to actually be real for you. And because of that intention, it will be impressed upon matter, upon energy. It'll be, and through the law of attraction, and God in the universe will actually bring it to you. So thank you. Thanks for your comment. Any other questions or comments?
Hi, Kevin. Mike here.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
Awesome. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
I've been meaning to jump on a couple times this week, but just never got a chance. A couple of things spoke to me during the readings this week. The one about the other day about being somebody else's caretaker,
playing God, essentially.
playing God. And God, that's, you know, and like right after that, like 3 different people told me, you got to stop doing what you're doing with your kid and let him grow up himself. And it's like, I know it's so hard, you know, but I've started to tell him that we have to make movement forward. And then today's exercise with the imagination gave me a really good idea, because one of the things he fears the most is walking amongst people. So I'm going to try an exercise with him, imagining himself successfully and confidently walking amongst people and talking to them and so forth, and actually try to get him to say, well, if you did it right, what would you say right? That kind of thing. So that was a great reading for me today. I really appreciate that. And I just want to say, I also manifested a nice grant this week. I kept telling myself that it was coming. And finally, on, I forget what day it was, Wednesday, I said, you know what? I closed my eyes and I said, it's coming today. I know it's coming today. And within an hour, I had an email that it was mine.
Awesome.
And I was so excited. I had such a great day.
That's awesome. Good to hear from you too, because I haven't, you know, I know you've been on a couple times, but you and I haven't talked to each other in, you know, over in a little while. So good to hear from you.
Yeah, I've been here, and I'm probably not doing the right thing all the time. I'm multitasking at some points, but you know, I have appointments and things that I have to attend to. So, but I do my best to try to pay attention. And I caught several things this week that really, you know, got my attention. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know I've heard from you very recently, but just maybe an update or whatever. How are you doing, Stephanie? You there?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. It took me a moment to come off mute. Very well. First off, I've been meaning to text you and say thank you for the follow-up text the other day, because as you know, I was in a bit of a funk, but after our private group, it really turned my mental thought process around, in that I realized I was still working old programs, and it took talking to you in the group I was trying to fight it on my own and not talk to you, right? Like you pointed out. And I can't tell you how much better I felt afterwards, and how I recognized I was trying to do it on my own and thought I knew what I was doing, but really it took that extra discussion with you in the group to get me to realize I wasn't actually.
Yeah.
So I'm doing really good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, you paid for coaching, take advantage of it.
Yep, I know.
You know?
Yeah.
Because you've had some awesome things show up since we've been working together.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that you won't occasionally get stuck. But I know sometimes it's like, oh, darn, I'm stuck. I don't have something cool I need help is what I need. Let's see if I can get through this on my own. Well, I don't know. Do you want to sew your own arm back on? Right? Or would you
Yeah.
rather get some help with that?
Yeah, and the what was a good learning experience was I didn't recognize that I needed help until I was forced to bring it up in the group, and then all of a sudden it was like boom! It was like it opened everything up for me, and just changed my perspective.
Awesome.
So,
Cool.
yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's see. Looks like somebody tried to come off and say something. Are you there, Shitha?
Yes, I am here.
Were you wanting to say something or? No, you did?
I enjoyed the session, and it's really inspiring me. But no comment for today.
Okay, I saw you'd come off mute, so I thought about the same time Stephanie did, so just wondered.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. Anybody else? Heather, is this your first time? Welcome. You could just give a thumbs up if you want, or
Yes.
say whatever.
Thank you. Yeah, I came across you yesterday, so I thought I'd check it out.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So we're here every Monday through Friday. Same link will work. Same time. The reason I say that is I don't always send out reminders, and people get enough reminders anyway. So we've been, since November 5th until now, there's only been one day that I've missed, including holidays, by the way. And funny enough, we had pretty good turnout on holidays, so people must have enjoyed what we've been doing. So we'll be here, and again, you could use the same link. The other thing I'll point out for you and for everybody else, some of you guys already know this, some of you don't though. So we do the same kind of meeting. I just started it. I started it this past Monday because of different schedules. And so we run a meeting just like this one, but it starts 2 hours later. So this one started 10, I don't know what time it was, your time. What part of the country are you in?
San Antonio, so it started at noon.
Started at noon. Okay, for me, it started at 10. So there's another one that's going to start at 2 for you. You don't have to be there, of course. You can be it, or you can come to both, or no, you do whatever you want. Happy to have you though. But
It's the same material?
No, that's why I wanted to.
Okay.
It is and it isn't. So what I mean by that is this group has been going since November 5th, and we've gone through a lot of different things. And what I did is I started the new group this past Monday back where we originally started on November 5th.
Oh, okay.
Now that doesn't mean
I'm sure you said that. I'm sorry if I missed it.
Yeah, there is kind of an order to it, but that's okay. It's not like, oh, if I listen to this today, you know, and this is 3 months into it, that you're going to be lost because of that. Each of the things that we tend to dive into, they're all important things that you're going to need anyway. And they're different parts. Like some of it is more of a formula, like this is how you go about attracting money and wealth in your life. But people still might struggle with that because of their programming. So it's like, okay, so here's how to understand what's going on with you. Because if you understand how the universe works, but your programming is in opposition to what it is you want in your life, no matter how hard you try and follow the recipe, you're not going to get a good cake. The cake is good. It's always going to burn or go flat, or you're going to miss an ingredient because your subconscious mind is going to sabotage you. So just understanding how it works doesn't mean you're going to get the success. And that's what frustrates people.
Mhm.
So they're like, well, I've read this, I've studied this, I've been learning about this, all this stuff, but I'm not getting, it's not happening the way I wanted to, or I got stuck, right? I'm doing
Right.
good. I've hit a level, you know, and but
Oh, I totally get that. I'm missing a piece because
Right.
I feel like I'm doing it all right. And I'm like, where am I missing? Where's the threshold's right in front of me and I don't know how to step over it.
Okay, cool. Well, stick around and we will help you with that for sure. For sure. Okay, so for everybody though, I just put in the chat the link to the other one because I can't run the same link for both meetings. So the other link is for the one that's at 2 p.m. your time, 10 noon my time. And it's a different link, but again, same thing Monday through Friday. That same link will work for that time period. So, and you only register once like you did for this one, and then you can, you know, attend whenever you like. So that's for you and anybody else who didn't know about that already. So welcome, glad to have you.
Thank you. Kevin, I have a question.
Okay, now you do.
About the new group. Is it
Uh-huh.
the same subjects or different?
So what I was saying is it's going to be different. They're not running concurrently with each other. Okay. Meaning, yes, it's different
Okay.
subjects, but it is what I started off on Monday with that group is what I started off November 5th with the original group.
Okay.
And as you know, up until now with this particular time slot, we haven't gone back and repeated anything, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've been taking this further, but eventually this one will loop back around.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay, cool.
yeah, because the point isn't to read and go through every piece of material that was ever made on planet Earth until we've touched on it.
Yeah.
The point is to actually reprogram ourselves so that we function in accordance with what it is that we want. And so as you've noticed, as we've gone through things, we try and hit on things that are scientific and things that are spiritual because of different people's belief systems. But ultimately, if we truly understand the laws, which some people don't, they just think of the law of attraction. They don't recognize that that's actually a subsidiary law to the law of vibration. And there's actually 7 laws that govern. Some more think there are more. There are more laws of the universe, okay? But there's essentially 7 laws that will govern you receiving more money and wealth in your life. And if you're not aware of what those are, it's kind of hard to live by them. That doesn't change that they exist, like gravity, it still exists. Whether we understand it or not doesn't matter. It still exists. And if we do something that's in opposition to that law, we suffer the consequence. Well, we are constantly suffering consequences, not because we're making bad decisions. Those are different. Okay. We'll suffer those consequences too. But we suffer sometimes the consequence the same way an infant will, if an infant touches a hot stove not knowing any better, the infant's going to burn its hand, right? Because it touched the hot stove, not because, you know, but you can say, well, the infant wasn't aware of what happens when you touch a hot stove. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. The infant touched the hot stove, but the infant wasn't trying to touch the hot stove. The infant was just moving his hands across the counter and then he touched the hot stove. Well, guess what? It still doesn't matter. The infant got hurt touching the hot stove. So we've got to understand how things work and kind of the formulas, so to speak, for manifesting what we want. But then we've got this other obstacle. Every one of us tends to have this obstacle, or else we would naturally have everything we want, which is our subconscious programming. So now we got to learn about how that works. We also got to learn about who we are for our self-image, because we will never out manifest our self-image. So there's just more that goes on with all this than people realize. But the beauty of it is it's learnable, it's doable for everybody. And once you get it and it starts working well for you, your life, it just unfolds so much better and everything comes so much easier with so much less strain and effort than you've been putting out throughout your life. So, but yes, it's the same material eventually, but no, it's not the same material right now. It's we're not on the exact same, you know, course.
Yeah,
So to
yeah.
speak.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments for now?
I just want to share real quick from the afternoon group yesterday.
Uh-huh.
While I was debating on if I should send the email or not, and since I did, I got an email back while I was in the afternoon group just saying, thanks, Arlo. And so now I feel so much at peace. I haven't thought of it like all day, whereas like all week I was thinking of it. So it's so much more settled now.
Awesome. 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 Glad you did that. Glad you did that.
I have a question. I clicked on that link you put in the chat, but it
Uh-huh.
took me to the noon time slots.
Uh-huh.
Is that still correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be, well, that's noon my time, 2:00 your time.
Oh, that's
If
right.
you read it,
Your
it's
time.
at Pacific Standard Time.
Oh,
Probably.
read it. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
I know, right?
I'm a skimmer. I'll read it. Thank you.
Yep. That, well, guess what? Perfect. That might be the one thing you're missing is with this. I'm seriously.
Problem solved. Gotta go. See y'all later.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, at least for this time, I will let you guys go, and I'll see some of you probably in a little over an hour if you choose to be there. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.